Hey, you guys, it is Sia Nash. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're tuning in today, hopefully it's your Friday, so happy Friday. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, this is Mirror Reflections, my vlog series, episode 1, and it's based off, we're pulling from my book, Mirror and Effect, which is available in most major bookstores as well as online on Amazon. So, wanting to get started, the book in its premise is about Desi as she narrates her life in the aftermath of her older sister's suicide. So Demi, which is the older sister, commits suicide and it just kind of shakes everybody up. So let's go ahead and get started. I do want to start from an excerpt from my book, and it's actually page 1 that we're going to be doing. So to start it off, it says, I've had this feeling before, drowning, suffocating, like my ankle was tied to this 100-pound anchor as I was being cast into deep oceans. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pry the anchor away. No matter how hard I fought, I couldn't pull myself up. No air, no way I could beg for mercy. I looked around at my surroundings. Never would I imagine getting that feeling again, not in a place like this. The sun smiled down on us. A slight breeze beckoned all around, scattering soft, airy kisses across our faces. A short distance away, birds chirped brightly, their melodic sound soothing and happy. Such a beautiful day for an ugly event. Where's Demi to save you? A voice whispered in my head. I shook my head, not wanting to answer. Drowning, can't breathe, suffocating. Call her name, the voice persisted. Call for her. I can't, I whispered softly. Why not? No, I thought, pushing back hot tears. I didn't want to respond to that question either, because if I answered, I would finally have to admit that I had in fact drowned and passed away, that I had gone to hell and had to endure an eternity of this nightmare. Where is Demi? Where is your sister to save you now? The voice hissed. I closed my eyes. She can't save me now. Why not? No air, can't breathe, lungs exploding. Why not? I opened my eyes and couldn't stop the tears as they burned my cheeks, because she's dead. So that was just an excerpt from my book, and I want to get started by talking about suicide, which is, I know, is such a heavy topic, but it's a topic, it's a theme that shapes the book. It shapes Desi's character and the people around her. It's also, I feel like, something that's so prevalent because it shapes our country and our culture. Something that's is extremely relevant right now. As a mental health professional, I deal with suicide and suicide ideations and attempts on a weekly basis, and I've been involved in so many cases and so many families and individuals who the topic of suicide is just at the center of everything, and I've said this before, but in our culture we kind of shy away from the uncomfortable stuff like it's going to go away. We shy away from depression and mental health and suicide as if they're not happening, and they impact us all, and they impact us in so many different ways and on so many different levels. So I just want to build a bridge, and open up the discussion. I have been sending my book off to like agents, and they kind of toss back, well, I don't think the reason why Demi commits suicide, I don't think that's like dramatic enough. And I'm thinking to myself, it's not supposed to be dramatic. I think the entertainment business and, the media, they kind of glamorize to a certain degree. I feel they glamorize suicide as this big production, and probably like 10% of the cases or the families I've been involved with, yeah, I would say, it was a heightened moment, and, it spiraled immediately out of control where a person just then commit suicide. But 90% of my cases, it hadn't been that way. And so I wanted to narrate, based from my experience, the truth and the reality of what we're dealing with. The 90% of the cases I've dealt with, it involved like a high functioning person. And when I say high functioning, they appear to be doing well, but unbeknownst to us, things were spiraling out of control where they were left with no other choice but to take their lives. That is real to me. That's my truth. That's my reality. And I wanted to write and narrate a book that I feel is relatable, that could be relatable to me, or could be relatable to other people, people who are finding themselves overwhelmed. I wanted to put it in a way that we can relate to. So that's my spill on that. I've always been passionate about mental health, always been passionate about, suicide prevention and awareness. However, I'm going to be a little bit honest and disclose a little bit here. Last month, it definitely hit home because I had a family member who committed suicide. And so it's something that our family, we're still processing. I'm still processing through this because it definitely shook us up. So it's, it's, it's definitely something that needs to be discussed. I want to give some I guess you could say stats on mental health and mental illness and depression and suicide. And these are taken from the National Alliance on Mental Illness as well as the National Institute of Mental Health. So, 1 in 5 adults at some point have reported mental health in any given year. 1 in 5 youth, and that's ages 13 through 18, experience some part or some form of mental illness at some point of their lives. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. It's the third leading cause of death from ages 10 through 14. So, y'all, it's like elementary school through middle school. And it's the second leading cause of death, ages 15 through 34. That number just shook me. It's the second leading cause. So, we have to talk about this at this point. There are twice as many suicides reported over homicides as well. So, this is something that we have to deal with because it's out there and people are being impacted. I want to go over some warning signs with you. If you may suspect someone is contemplating suicide or having suicidal ideations, some things you can check into. And these warning signs are different from everyone, but if you're noticing a combination of these things along with your gut instinct, I always say trust your gut. Definitely seek help or get that person to help immediately. So some signs include talking about dying or wanting to die. As a professional, I treat every comment seriously. So if you're joking, and I know sometimes we have moments where we make jokes and it's not the best joke. This is one of those times where, it's not a good joke to make because someone out there may be taking you seriously. People who are oftentimes depressed or battling with some severe mental illness, they have negative self-talk, and so they're kind of doubting themselves. They feel like they may be a burden. They're feeling worthless. They may be feeling also hopeless, meaning that they don't have hope. They're not looking forward to anything. There's no future possibilities, which is such a sad thing to feel. They may also be feeling helpless, meaning that they feel that they aren't able to be helped, or they feel like their situation is so overwhelming that it can't be savaged, that they have no choice but to consider suicide. If you notice a person's mood may be changing rapidly, that's not common for them, definitely check into that. That's definitely a warning sign, regardless if it's suicide or whatever reason. Someone whose mood keeps fluctuating rapidly, that's definitely a warning sign that I check into, as well as extreme irritability, withdrawing, isolating themselves, which is not common for them. Some people like to take a break and kind of stay to themselves. If you find that's more so than typical what you're used to seeing from them, definitely check into that. One definite red flag is if you see them giving away possessions, like prized possessions, things that they love, or making final details like with their will. At this point, this person has more than likely not only considered suicide, but they've considered their plan, they've considered the method and when they're going to do it. So they're pretty much already committed to the idea of it, and that's very, very alarming. Definitely assist them with getting help. If you are a loved one, or if you know someone who may be experiencing suicidal ideations, or a person has disclosed this to you, one, I would like to say your role is not to be the superhero in this matter. And I hope that takes some of the pressure off of you. I hope you're thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta save them right here and now. No, you're not Batman, you're not Superman, you're not Wonder Woman. Your role in this is not to save the day, so to speak. Instead, you want to listen to them. Listen with an open heart and an open mind, and try not to be judgmental or confrontational. Definitely avoid questions that start with why. Like, why are you feeling this way? Or why is this your choice? Just because why tends to take on a very confrontational, accusatory kind of undertone, and it may feel like the person may feel like they're being attacked. So you definitely want to shy away from that, but instead just listen and be open. It makes so much of a difference when we know our voice is being heard, and just immediately take them to, you have the emergency room, you have the hospital, there's even law enforcement who are trained to come out and escort somebody to some services, or to a doctor or therapist. So you definitely have services available. If you feel, that suicide is the only way, please seek help. The goal is not to be strong, because I don't know anyone who can handle this thing called life on their own. The goal is not to be strong and think you have to carry this burden by yourself. The goal is to be smart. The goal is to live another day. I'm a firm believer that all of us, we have this voice that's so precious, and everyone deserves for their voice to be heard. And I truly believe that there's someone out there who wants to hear your voice and wants to hear your story, because maybe they need someone like you. Maybe, you're able to inspire them or motivate them because they feel like they can totally relate. So the goal is to be smart and, seek help, because we would be blessed to continue to have your presence in our lives. Don't think you have to do this alone. There's so many resources out there. If you're in the Memphis area, just to name one, there's the Memphis Crisis Center. They have a hotline, and it's 24/7. And these are volunteers, okay? So they're volunteering to get trained to be able to assist you in your moment of crisis. So there's so many people out there who are willing and wanting to help. If you have had a loved one who has committed suicide, my heart sincerely goes out to you. For me, it's been a day-by-day thing where I have to process my emotions as they come and go. I don't fight them. I embrace them no matter how ugly they may feel. And I hope it gives you hope that, just if you can just take it day by day, we can reach that stage called acceptance. And we'll be talking about acceptance a little later on. So yeah, I want to end by reading another excerpt from the book. And this is Desi talking. And this is near the end. And she says, "My sister wasn't weak because she had been depressed. She had been vulnerable. Although it had been foolish of me to place Demi on the pedestal in the first place, I also couldn't view my sister as inferior because of her self-doubt and insecurities. I realized my sister and I shared more than just physical traits. Like me, Demi had harbored her own fears. She had been unsure of herself. And just like me, my sister had struggled to see herself the way others had seen her. After the weight of perfection and the burden of depression proved too much to handle, Demi unfortunately had chosen not to seek out the help or support she needed. And in the end, she was forced to suffer those burdens alone. But that didn't make my sister a bad person. Sure, she had a lot of secrets and kept a lot to herself, but my sister hadn't been manipulative or devious. She hadn't been fake or phony. I realized all sides of Demi weren't separate or divisive. Instead, they came together to make one flawed, beautiful, but fragile girl. Human. My sister. Finally, the image reconciled. And Neil was right. I was strong. It took strength to face the reality of my sister's death. For so long, Demi's suicide had been the chink of my armor, my weakness. It had left me confused and vulnerable. But being vulnerable wasn't a sign of weakness, because it took strength to embrace weakness. And it took courage to accept vulnerability. So here's to saying, it's such a beautiful, strong thing to say, you know what? I don't have all the answers. I'm a hot mess and I need help. So here's to the beauty in that. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Can't wait to see you next Friday, because we're going to go again. New topic. Let's get into it. Again, this is Miriam Reflections. My name is C.N. Nash. Thank you so much. God bless.